Hi everyone, and welcome to the webinar on A Week in the Life on the ACM London and Florence and Jordan programs. And today we have two alum of our programs with us, Kristina Randelzhofer, and she's an alum of the London and Florence program, and Emma Standen, an alum of the Jordan program. So they will be talking to you about a week in the life on the programs, so from homestays to their on-site classes, to getting involved in the community while they were studying abroad. So we'll be recording this, so if you have any questions or want to look back later, you can see that either on our website, also on our YouTube, and if you have questions throughout, you can just write those out in the chat box, and we will get to those at the end if you have questions for us or for our alum joining us here today. So after they're done kind of talking about their experience, Katie Rose and I will talk a little bit about next steps to take for those of you who might be interested in studying away on the programs in the future. And I will let Kristina and Emma take it away from here.
Hey, thank you. Okay, so I started out in London. I spent 7 weeks in London before heading to Florence. So during a typical week, we would have class in the morning, usually either at Monticello House, where we would have insight classes, or we would go on site to churches or museums or take a tour of the neighborhood. And those in-class sessions would be a chance to reflect on those things we got to see while we were touring the churches, museums, or neighborhoods. So we would spend our mornings and afternoons doing that, not every day, but most days. And then in the evenings, we would typically see 2 to 3 theater performances a week for our theater class. And then we would meet during the week in class at Monticello House to talk about our theater performances and reflect on those. We typically had Fridays off so we could do exploring of the city on our own or take weekend trips. That was a good option too. But we did get to see a lot of the places we would have liked to see anyway as part of our classes, which was really great. So here are a few examples of things we got to see. So on the top left, we took a weekend trip as part of my theater class to Stratford-upon-Avon to go to Shakespeare's birthplace. And we also saw a couple shows there. Then on the top right is Hampton Court Palace, which is where King Henry VIII lived, and we went there for my class called London as Visual Text. So with that class, we learned a lot about London's heritage and how they presented that heritage through their museums and churches and things like that. So one of the best opportunities we had was we got to tour the Houses of Parliament with a current MP, Dennis Skinner. He's the longest serving member of Parliament right now. So you can see our cohort in the bottom left taking a picture with him after our tour. And then on the bottom right is Royal Court Theatre, which is one of the theaters where we saw a show. The show we saw there was called Escaped Alone. So in London, you get to live in flats, and one of the things I really enjoyed about this program was that I got 2 very distinct living experiences in London and in Florence, which I'll talk about later. But in London, we lived in flats there were 5 people in each flat, and in my cohort, there were 10 of us, so we had 2 flats. There were 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a living room, kitchen, all the pots, pans, dishes, utensils were all provided in the kitchen, so you didn't need to worry about bringing those or buying them there. There was also a washer right in the flat, which was nice, and then they had drying racks as well. So for getting around London, we would take the tube, the bus, or we could walk. Walking was a great way to get a feel of where everything was in the city and really get to know it. But it was really easy to get around, and that was all provided with the program, so we didn't need to worry about paying for transportation out of pocket while we were there. So this picture is of Ability Towers, so that's where our flats were. There was construction going on next door while I was there, but that should be done at this point. But all the people at Ability Towers were really nice and accommodating and wanted to make sure that we had everything taken care of. So here are some pictures of the inside, just the bedroom, living room, kitchen, and bathroom. So it's a nice space. Then Florence, so I spent 7 weeks in London, and then we had a week off in the middle, and then I went to Florence. So in Florence, we spent even more time in class there than we did in London. So we had an Italian language class that we all took. That was typically in the afternoon. And then in addition to 2 other classes. So in the morning, we would either meet at Lingua Viva, which was our school in Florence, and have class to go over some of the things we would learn about or had learned about in our on-site visits, or we would go to a church or museum in the morning as well. And then again in the afternoon, and we had Italian about 3 days a week in the afternoon, which was really great. I had taken a tutorial before I left, but I didn't have a ton of knowledge of the language, and I felt like I picked it up really great from my class. It was taught by an Italian, which was nice, so picked it up rather quickly. So a big part of being in Italy was taking weekend trips as part of our classes. So we went to Siena, Rome, and Venice. In the top left is the Siena Cathedral. We spent a day there. And then we also went to Rome, so there's the Colosseum, and we toured Vatican City as well. So there's a picture in the bottom right in front of St. Peter's Basilica. And then we also spent a weekend in Venice and went to museums and churches there as well. So the Grand Canal is in the bottom left. Okay, so living in Florence. This was my favorite part of my program altogether. I lived with an Italian host family. They had been hosting students for about 30 years, so they were pros on having American students staying with them. They were so kind, and they provided our breakfast and dinner every day. Dinner was usually around 8:30 and could last a couple hours. I will never eat as much again as I did every night for dinner in Italy. The pasta, and then the meat and potatoes and vegetables, and then there's dessert and fruit, and they're trying to get you to have seconds, and there's just not room for it. But it's all delicious, and I just loved having that time to talk with my family about their days and learn about them, and they could learn about my family. And so I really looked forward to that time, and I really enjoyed watching soccer with my host dad too. He didn't speak any English, so we were able to converse in Italian a little bit, but we really connected through watching soccer games because that was something he was passionate about. So you can do your laundry at the homestay as well. And then getting around Florence, you can ride the bus. I personally rarely did that. I mostly walked. The buses didn't really run on schedule all the time, and the city was just so beautiful, and the weather was nice. And then Florence is significantly smaller than London, so it was even easier there to walk than it had been in London. So I really enjoyed doing that, and it only took me about 40 minutes to get to school, even less to get to some of the attractions or churches or museums we went to for class. So I enjoyed that. So these are a few of the places we went as part of class. So in the top left, that's Palazzo Vecchio, which is the town hall in Florence. And it used to belong to the Medici family, which were very influential patrons of the arts in Florence, and they built nearly every building in Florence that you would go and see. So I had a class all in the Medici. And then there's Michelangelo's David. And then in the bottom left is a picture of all of us at the Boboli Gardens, which is outside the Palazzo Pitti, which is another Medici palace, and the beautiful gardens there. And then bottom right is Ponte Vecchio, which is a bridge that goes over the river in Florence that there are a lot of people selling gold and jewelry and things like that. So, yeah. So feel free to contact me with any questions you come up with or whatever. So you can reach me at my email there. My last suggestion is if you go to Italy, eat lots of gelato because it's delicious. La Carraia was my favorite spot, and my favorite flavors were bacio, which means kiss in Italian, and it's chocolate and hazelnut with cookies. It's a great combo. So I recommend.
So I did the Amman program, or the Jordan program, where different than the Florence, London. You're only one country, you're in one place. So we all lived in homestays in Amman, and I had a great host family. I have some photos of them later. But everyone is in a neighborhood that is close enough to taxi into school or walk. I would walk. It was only 30 minutes, and I loved walking to get to know the city. I'd track my walks on an app, which was really nice to see where I'd been. The general structure of like the week is you have class Sunday through Thursday. The weeks in Jordan are set up so like the work week is Sunday through Thursday because the holy day is Saturday. Or not Saturday, Friday. So you have Friday and Saturday as your weekend, which takes a little bit to get used to, but after that you're good. There's lots to do in Amman. It's a city. There's tons of nightlife. There's lots of little shops and cafes and like festivals and events, and I'll be kind of showing some of the options to do. So this photo is from downtown. The main street downtown, there's a bunch of little markets called souks, and this is from the top of the Roman Roman amphitheater that was really, really steep and scary to walk up, but really great view from the top. So some of the things to do on your own are you can do some weekend travel trips, like I did this one up in the top right corner was my own personal trip. I went to Donna with my host brother and one of his friends, and then 2 other people on my program. Jordan has really, really good food, and a lot of the fruit is really fresh. And my host brother in the bottom left corner took me to this really great like juice bar that they have, just this little stand on the side of the road, which made amazing like juice slushies. But then in the bottom corner, that's my host family. I lived with a family of 4, my host mom, host brother, and younger host sister, and then the dad worked a lot, so he was gone a lot and didn't speak much Arabic, or like he didn't speak much English and only spoke Arabic, so like didn't see him as much. But my host mom made the best food, and my host brother worked, but I got to help my like host sister, who was only 14, with her English, and she helped me kind of with my Arabic. She mainly laughed at my Arabic, but the program's really great because they put you with a family who really will help your Arabic skills. Like I came in with like very beginning Arabic skills from high school, but most of the people in my classes did not know any Arabic, and they got along fine. And then the top picture is a picture of my roommate and I during Christmas. They go all out for Christmas, and like more extravagant than my hometown has ever gone. So another really cool thing is you can get into like sports. One of my people on my cohorts really got into a CrossFit gym. Another got into like football club that I didn't even know existed. But what I did is I did ultimate frisbee. The Amman Ultimate Club is like this, they have pickup every week, and you can go and just play ultimate with a bunch of people, which is really fun. And Amman hosts the Middle East North Africa like club ultimate championships. So all these teams from all over the Middle East and North Africa come and compete, which was really fun. I just happened to be volunteering selling merchandise, and I ended up on the Bahrain Ultimate team. So it was a really fun experience to have, and it's like a really fun sports culture. Everyone's just like, oh, cool, just come play with us. Let's play in the parking lot, like outside of our building. My program was lucky enough that the Women's FIFA World Cup was being hosted in Amman when we were there, so we went to the USA North Korea game, which was a blast. They lost, but you can't win them all. Another really cool thing that happened is Amman Design Week. So Amman is like really up and coming with supporting of the arts, and like artists are becoming more world renowned. and they have a week where they just devote the whole week to different arts events. So there's installations all across the city, such as this one on the bridges that cross downtown. And they just have collections of like music and art and like interactive activities and classes that you can take. But you can really see that art is like, it's an art-rich community because there's street art everywhere you go. There's a bunch of staircases in Amman because it's a very hilly landscape. So they just build staircases into the streets. So instead of having to go all the way up the hill, you can just walk up. And often those are decorated with murals or like the edges of the street, the stairs are muraled. It's really cool. So another thing I did is I joined a choir. So I auditioned for Dozan Wanatar, which is like the first music establishment in Jordan. And we had rehearsal twice a week and plus lots of social activities. Like generally we would have at least a social activity once every 2 weeks, maybe like once a week, depending on how busy the time of year was. And we had like a great Halloween party, as you can see in the top left-hand corner. And we had like a Secret Santa leading up to our choir concert, and like would go out for karaoke. And leading up to our Shine with Joy choir Christmas concert, we did a tour around Jordan. So we got to go to a bunch of different cities and sing for them. And what was really cool about that experience is like I was with a like 95% local Jordanian choir, and I got to go to all these like insider communities rather than the general tourist communities, and meet some really cool people and see some things that I wouldn't normally get to do as like a expat or like a tourist, which was really cool. And so in the top corner, that's us before one of our Christmas concerts. We had like fun props, and it's all about like having a lot of fun while you're singing. So part of the program, you get to go on, I think, 3 different travel trips with the program. So one of them is up north to a Ajlun Castle and Drash, and those are some like ruins, which are really cool. I didn't include photos. And then another trip is like the southern trip, which you go to Wadi Rum, which is these 2 photos, which is a desert where Lawrence of Arabia was like hung out, which I don't know if any of you guys know Lawrence of Arabia, or The Martian was filmed here. Most beautiful place. I probably like one of my top, like probably top 3 most beautiful places I've ever been in my life. Wish I could have stayed there longer, but we go to Wadi Rum and Petra for the southern trip. And then for the like kind of reflection trip to like really just think about like what you've learned being abroad and like what you're going to take from this experience, we do a like fun reflection trip where you do all the biblical sites such as the like Madaba and the baptismal like river, and then we go to the Dead Sea and hang out at a resort, which was really fun. And these are some of the photos, and let me tell you, it's really weird to float in water. It's kind of oily, but it's like a lot of fun. You'll just have to experience it for yourself. So this is my host brother and I, and feel free to contact me with any questions. I highly recommend this program. Amman is really safe. Like as a woman, I would walk around by myself to and from school, and I felt comfortable like taking a cab by myself by the end of the program. Your Arabic will be like, it's scary at first because you're like, I don't know what anyone's saying. This is a really hard language, but it's not as hard as you think it is. And by the like first 3 weeks, everyone could get around with their Arabic. Like your survival Arabic is a savior. But all you really need to know is like tell the taxi driver to use the meter, and then you're good. But yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me via email or just ask some questions at the end of the session.
Awesome.
Emma, out of curiosity, how would you tell the taxi driver to use the meter?
Dad.
Perfect. We're set. So my name's Katie Rose Brosnan. We are very backlit here, but Julie Lucas and I sort of work with students who are thinking of applying to the Jordan program, and oftentimes you first have to go through some steps on your campus. And so we're happy to talk with you about any of our off-campus study programs, but we often encourage students to connect with your own academic advisor, with your off-campus study office. Many schools have internal deadlines that are upcoming in the next couple weeks and months.
Yeah. As far as our deadlines, they are a bit later, but that's why we do recommend that you talk with people on your campus. For the Jordan program for next fall, our deadline is March 15th. And then for London and Florence for spring 2019, for us, the early deadline is March 15th, and then the final one is October 15th. And then we also recommend prospective students to kind of just check out our website, look at past classes, look at, past student experiences, just to kind of get a better idea of what it's like to go on the program. And then if you create an account on the website, Katie Rose or myself will reach out to you, and we can answer any questions that you might have about the programs or about how to apply.
We also have a couple folks on staff who can handle parent questions, which I know is something that we get pretty frequently, just particularly any study abroad experience, like people in your life may also have questions about, and that's something that we are used to and happy to answer.
Yes. So I think right now we can open it up to questions. We actually already have a few here in the questions box that we can get to, but if anyone else has any, feel free to write those in the chat box or the question box. So our first question here is from Natalie. It is for Kristina, and it says, what classes did you take in London and Florence?
Okay, so in London, I took a class called London as a Visual Text, which we took with a professor from London. He was a professor at the University of London, and it was all about learning about the heritage of London and how London presents its heritage. So that's a class where we would go to museums like the Victoria and Albert Museum or the British Museum. And we also went to both St. Paul's Cathedral and Westminster Abbey, and then we visited the Houses of Parliament and did more things like that. And then the other class in London was my theater course, where we'd go to 2 to 3 shows a week. So we saw, my favorite was Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. We saw some Shakespeare, really a wide variety of theaters and performances. And then in Florence, I took Italian language, and then I took a class on the Medici family and their as being patrons of the arts in Florence. So we would visit their palaces, and they also were patrons of many of the churches in Florence, and many of those palaces have been since been turned into museums. So going to those places. And then my other class was a museum studies course, where we ended up going to a lot of the same places or talking about similar ideas, but there were other places we went to, and it was interesting to get both perspectives. So going to the Uffizi Gallery and looking at all of them were focused on Renaissance art.
Awesome. Thanks, Kristina. And then we also have a question for Emma. Emma, you're talking a lot about all the extracurricular activities, the choir, and this question is about kind of how you got involved in all of those activities.
So there's actually, that's a great question. There's a online thing called the Jordan Sun, which is the coolest thing ever. It is just a list of everything that is going on that day on this big long list, and you can like see what movies are playing, what places are having happy hours, what places are doing arts festivals, etc. I got involved in the choir. There was one person in my program who he was really into choir, and so he went out and found them on Facebook, and they just happened to be having auditions, so we both auditioned. And then the ultimate was kind of the same thing. In Jordan, a lot of the things are on Facebook. So like Facebook is a really, really good tool for finding things, like just searching events, searching programs, but you kind of just have to look and you'll find it. Also, our program advisors, like one of our program advisors, she would take us to, like, she would drive us downtown because she wanted to go to a Mon Design Week, and so she was really excited about that. So she like took us there. But the Jordan Sun is a great resource because it literally has every single day. Like you click on like today, like November 29th, and it'll just be like pages of stuff to do that day. Like I went to this really cool film outdoor in this little like ruin area where you just go to this outdoor film, and like it's really cool. Lots of stuff to do. Never a dull moment. So.
Outstanding. We had another question come in, also from Natalie, and it was asking about Kristina, your major, and whether or not you would recommend the London and Florence program for theater majors.
Okay. Well, I'm actually an American Studies major, so none of the courses I took in London or Florence counted for my major in particular, but I used a lot of the same skills because with my major at St. Olaf, I study culture a lot, take a lot of history courses and all that. So it was very applicable to applying that to another culture. As far as theater majors go, there were 2 theater majors on my program, and I think that they really enjoyed it. I think that our professor really did a great job of balancing those people who had a lot of experience with theater with those who had less experience with it, and then we both sets of people, or wherever you were on that spectrum, got a lot out of it.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
We will say for theater majors, there are, even if a theater professor is not coming and teaching a specific course, for example, in the spring of 2019, I believe the visiting director course is about travel writing and sort of that sort of idea of London as a place that collects travel and that people travel to. There are still opportunities for theater majors, and they're like those have been somewhat built into the other components. However, that term, there is not a specific dedicated theater course the way that there was when Kristina was there. So we want to be upfront about that.
Yes, but there are a lot of plays, and
Yes.
some of those will be integrated into the classes as well. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities to see theater and learn about it as well in the program.
And broadly speaking, this is one of those areas where we think that like off-campus study is enriching for students of any background, and going on pretty much any program. We're very interdisciplinary, sort of that liberal arts weird major minor combo. The thing where it sometimes gets a little sticky is with your department or major on campus. So talking to, that's one of the reasons why we encourage you to go talk to folks back on your own campus to say, okay, like here are the syllabi that I found on this program's website. Here are the ways that I think it fits in with my learning goals and my learning plan. And now let's see what sort of credit I can get for that. Maybe none of it comes back in for your major, but they're, sort of miscellaneous upper level arts and humanities credits that you would have needed, or language arts credits if you're going to a place like Jordan that has an intensive language focus. And so there's a lot that can be done with that, but oftentimes it's a lot less stressful for you if you talk to your advisor and department chair before you go.
Absolutely.
Because when you come back, you won't want to argue about it.
Well, great. I think that is all the questions that we have now. Feel free to reach out to us, to any of us as well. We'd love to talk with you about the programs, about applying, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes.
So have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Thanks, Emma and Kristina.
Yes, thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.